The wounded alien princess was left alone until a human stood with her. The communications array at Luna Station crackled with static before a weak signal broke through. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen, monitoring the night shift, nearly missed it among the cosmic interference. The transmission was brief, fragmented, spoken in the melodic but urgent tones of the Catherian language. Sanctuary, bleeding, Princess Lirelai, please. Marcus sat up straighter, his coffee forgotten. The Catherians were the most isolationist species in the known galaxy, proud, ancient, and fiercely independent. They had never asked for help from anyone, especially not from humans. Yet here was a distress call from what appeared to be a royal vessel. Through his viewport, Marcus could see the damaged ship drifting in Earth's outer orbit. The vessel, which he recognized as a Catherian royal transport called the Starweaver, was dark except for emergency lighting. Its elegant crystalline hull, usually gleaming like captured starlight, was cracked and scorched. Captain Sarah Reeves arrived within minutes, her expression grim as she studied the readings. No response to our hails, she reported. The ship's life support is failing, but our sensors detect one life sign. What are our orders, Captain? Marcus asked, though he already dreaded the answer. The Catherian ambassador was very clear, Reeves replied, reading from her tablet. Their mourning laws are sacred. No outsider may approach a royal in grief. Any violation would be considered an act of war. Marcus watched the dying ship through the observation deck's vast windows. Somewhere inside, someone was alone, injured, possibly dying, and everyone was too afraid of starting an interstellar incident to help. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the station's chief medical officer, joined them. A brilliant xenobiologist with kind eyes and steady hands. She'd served on the frontier worlds where species mingled more freely. The life signs are getting weaker, she said quietly. Whoever's in there won't last another day. The law is clear, Captain Reeves said, though her voice lacked conviction. We monitor from a distance, nothing more. But Marcus couldn't stop staring at the ship. During the Centauri conflict, he'd been a field medic, crawling into burning wreckage to pull out wounded soldiers while enemy fire rained down. He'd sworn an oath and never again would he stand by while someone died alone, regardless of politics or protocol. As the hours passed, other ships arrived. The Andromedan Council sent a diplomatic vessel. The Tau Ceti Federation dispatched observers. Everyone watched. No one acted. The Starweaver grew colder and darker with each passing hour. This is insane, Dr. Vasquez whispered during the third day of the vigil. We have the medical technology to help. The princess, if that's who it is, could be saved. Marcus made his decision that night. He requisitioned a small shuttle, loaded it with medical supplies, and prepared to launch. When Captain Reeves confronted him in the docking bay, he was already suited up. You'll start a war, Marcus, she warned. Maybe, he replied, sealing his helmet. But I won't let someone die alone while I watch from a window. As his shuttle approached the dying ship, Marcus wondered what he'd find inside. He knew nothing about Catherian biology, their customs, or their royal family. All he knew was that someone needed help, and everyone else was too afraid to give it. The Starweaver's docking bay accepted his shuttle without resistance, as if the ship itself was grateful for company. The Starweaver's corridors were works of art, flowing curves of bioluminescent crystal that normally pulsed with gentle light. Now they were dim, cracked, stained with what Marcus hoped was coolant but feared was blood. Emergency strips provided barely enough illumination to navigate by. He followed the trail of damage deeper into the ship, past shattered sculptures and burned-out control panels. The air grew thicker, tinged with ozone and something else, a sweet, metallic scent he couldn't identify. The ship's layout was organic, nothing like human vessels with their straight corridors and right angles. Marcus found himself climbing spiral ramps and crossing bridges that seemed to grow from the walls themselves. At the ship's heart, he discovered a vast chamber dominated by a throne that took his breath away. It wasn't made of metal or stone, but of living crystal that pulsed with faint internal light. The throne seemed to grow from the floor like a massive geode, its faceted surface reflecting the dying emergency lights in prismatic rainbows. And slumped upon it was the most beautiful and tragic figure Marcus had ever seen. Princess Lirelai of the Catherian royal house was tall and ethereal, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow from within. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, and her features were sharp and elegant, clearly not human, but undeniably regal. She wore robes of deep purple that had once been magnificent but were now torn and stained with her violet blood. Her golden eyes opened as Marcus approached, widening in shock and something that might have been fear. You are not Catherian, she whispered, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. No, Marcus said, kneeling respectfully but not backing away. I'm human. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm here to help. You cannot, she said, trying to sit straighter despite obvious pain. The law of sacred mourning. No outsider may approach the throne of sorrows. You will bring war upon your people. Marcus was already scanning her with his medical tricorder, noting the deep gash across her torso, the signs of infection, the dangerous dehydration. Right now, I'm more worried about keeping you alive than I am about laws. She tried to push him away, but her hands were weak. I am in mourning, she explained, pain evident in every word. My father, the king, and my 3 brothers were murdered by my uncle's supporters. I escaped, but by our laws, I must sit alone with my grief until I either recover or join them in death. That's barbaric, Marcus said, beginning to clean her wounds despite her protests. It is our way, she replied, though she didn't resist as he worked. For 3,000 years, no royal in mourning has been disturbed. It is sacred law. Then maybe it's time for new laws, Marcus said, applying a biofoam patch to her worst injury. You're dying, Your Highness. Whatever your traditions say, I won't stand by and watch that happen. As he worked, she studied him with those remarkable golden eyes. Why? She asked finally. Your people and mine have barely spoken in a century. We have nothing to offer each other. Why risk war for someone you don't even know? Marcus paused. In his work, meeting her gaze. Because you're alone, he said simply. Because you're hurt. Because everyone else was too scared to help. And because. He hesitated, then continued honestly, because no one deserves to die like this, no matter who they are or where they come from. For the first time since he'd found her, Princess Lirelai's expression softened. The rigid mask of royal composure cracked, revealing something vulnerable underneath. I am Lirelai, she said formally, last daughter of House Stellaris, rightful heir to the crystal throne of Kitharos. Pleased to meet you, Your Highness, Marcus replied with a slight smile. Now, let's get you patched up properly. As he continued treating her wounds, neither of them noticed the ship's communication system automatically recording their interaction, or the way the Throne of Sorrows pulsed with slightly brighter light as if approving of this unprecedented breach of ancient law. 3 days passed within the crystal chamber of the Starweaver. Marcus had established a small camp beside the Throne of Sorrows, sleeping on a portable cot and taking his meals from emergency rations. He monitored Lirelai's condition constantly, changing bandages, administering medications, and slowly bringing her back from death's door. Outside, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Catherian warships had arrived, sleek vessels that looked like elongated teardrops made of living starlight. They hadn't attacked, but their weapons were charged and their demands were clear. Return the human immediately or face the consequences. Captain Reeves sent increasingly urgent messages to the shuttle, but Marcus ignored them all. He had made his choice, and he would see it through. You're stubborn, Lirelai observed on the 4th morning, watching him prepare her medication with practiced efficiency. Her color had improved, and she could sit upright without assistance. Now, so I've been told, Marcus replied with a smile. My ex-wife certainly thought so. You were married? She asked, something odd in her voice. Was, past tense. She said I cared more about saving strangers than building a life with her. He handed Lirelai the medicine. She wasn't entirely wrong. Lirelai sipped the bitter liquid, making a face. Human medicine tastes terrible, but it works, Marcus pointed out. You're alive. Yes, she said quietly. Thanks to you. She was silent for a moment, then asked, what will happen to you when this is over? My people will demand justice for the violation of our laws, Marcus shrugged. I'll face whatever comes. I've been in trouble before. You speak so casually of your possible execution. Would you rather I panic? He checked her pulse, noting with satisfaction that it was growing stronger. Besides, I don't regret it. Getting to know you has been enlightening. Enlightening? Lirelai raised an elegant eyebrow. You're not what I expected from an alien princess, Marcus admitted. You're strong, intelligent, funny when you want to be. You care about your people deeply. I can see it in how you talk about them. And you're beautiful, though I probably shouldn't say that. A flush of deeper blue colored Lirelai's cheeks. In my culture, Such directness is considered either refreshingly honest or incredibly rude. Which is it in this case? She looked at him for a long moment. I haven't decided yet. That evening, as they sat together in the soft glow of the healing crystals, Lirelai told him about her world, about cities that grew like living things, about art forms that existed in dimensions humans couldn't perceive, about a culture built on harmony between technology and nature. Marcus, in turn, described Earth, its chaotic beauty, its struggling diversity, the way humans stumbled forward through trial and error, making mistakes but never giving up hope. Your people sound resilient, Lirelai said. We have to be. The universe doesn't make anything easy for us. He looked at her thoughtfully. What will you do if you survive this? If your people accept that you've broken the morning laws? Rule, I suppose. Try to heal my world from the damage my uncle's rebellion caused. Unite the scattered houses under one crown again. She touched the crystal arm of her throne. Though after this, I wonder if I'll even be allowed to try. You will, Marcus said with certainty. I've seen how you handle crisis. You're born to lead, even with the scandal of having been helped by an alien. Especially because of that, you had the courage to accept help when pride might have killed you. That's exactly the kind of leader your people need. Lirelai stared at him, something shifting in her expression. You have great faith in someone you barely know. I know enough, Marcus said softly. I know you're brave enough to flee assassins, stubborn enough to survive alone, and wise enough to let someone help you when you needed it most. She reached out then, her slender blue fingers touching his human hand. In my culture, she said quietly, there is a concept called Southis. It means one who stands when others fall. It's the highest honor we can bestow. I'm just a medic who couldn't walk away from someone in trouble. No, Lirelai said, her golden eyes serious. You are Southis Marcus Chen, and I will never forget what you've given me. Neither of them spoke of the growing warmth between them, or the way their hands lingered when they touched, or how the vast emptiness of space seemed smaller when they were together. But the throne of sorrows pulsed brighter, and even the ancient crystal seemed to approve of what was blooming in its shadow. On the seventh day, everything changed. The Catherian High Council's ultimatum arrived via quantum transmission, broadcast directly to every ship in the system. Princess Lirelai must submit to trial for violating sacred law, and the human who had defiled the throne of sorrows must face judgment for his crimes against the Catherian people. Marcus watched Lirelai's face as she received the message, saw the way her jaw tightened and her golden eyes blazed with anger. They want to make an example of us both, she said, her voice steady despite the implications. My cousin Valdris sits on the Regency Council now. He was always ambitious. Will you go? Marcus asked. I must. To refuse would confirm their accusations of madness. She looked at him, her expression pained. But you don't have to come. You could take your shuttle and leave. The council's anger is directed at me, not your people. Marcus was already shaking his head. I'm not abandoning you now, Marcus. They will likely sentence you to death. Catherian justice is final. Then we face it together, he said simply. 2 days later, they arrived at Kitheros Prime, the crystal heart of the Catherian Empire. The planet was a marvel, cities that grew like coral reefs, reaching toward twin suns that painted everything in shades of gold and amber. The palace of eternal light sat at the world's crown, its spires visible from orbit. The trial was held in the Hall of Voices, where the acoustics were designed to carry every word to the furthest corners. Thousands gathered to witness the unprecedented proceedings. Never before had an outsider been brought before the High Council, and never had a royal been charged with violating the morning laws. Valdris presided, his pale features set in an expression of righteous judgment. He was handsome in the angular way of his people, but his eyes were cold. Princess Lirelai, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the crystalline chamber, you stand accused of abandoning your sacred duty, of allowing an alien to defile the throne of sorrows, and of bringing shame upon the royal house. How do you answer? Lirelai stood straight and proud, despite the formal chains that bound her wrists, a symbol of her fallen status. I answer that I lived, she said clearly. I lived when duty would have seen me die. I lived because someone had the courage to help me when my own people turned away. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Valdris's expression darkened. And you, human, he said, turning to Marcus. You stand accused of violating our most sacred laws, of defiling our holy places, and of corrupting a member of our royal family. What defense do you offer? Marcus stepped forward, meeting the regent's gaze. Steadily. I offer no defense, he said. I did exactly what you've accused me of. I approached the princess when she was dying. I treated her injuries. I stayed with her so she wouldn't be alone. The crowd stirred at his honesty. Valdres smiled coldly. At least you don't compound your crimes with lies. The penalty for your actions is death. Then I'll die knowing I did the right thing, Marcus replied. It was then that Lorelei did something unprecedented. She invoked an ancient law that hadn't been used in over 1,000 years, the right of Talneth, or heart's claiming. By Catherian law, a royal could bind their fate to another's, making them equals before the throne. I claim this human as my chosen consort, she declared, her voice ringing through the hall. By the ancient laws, our fates are now one. You cannot judge him. Without judging me. The hall erupted in chaos. Valdres's composure cracked for the first time. You cannot, he sputtered. He's not even Catherian. The law makes no distinction of species, Lorelei replied. Only of choice. An elderly council member, bent with age, but sharp of mind, rose. Slowly. The princess is correct, she said, in a voice like rustling leaves. The law of heart's claiming is clear. If she chooses this human, he becomes her equal before our law. Valdres's face twisted with fury, but he could not argue with ancient precedent. Very well, he said through gritted teeth. Then you will both face exile. You will be stripped of all titles, all claims to the throne, all rights as Catherian citizens. Lorelei lifted her chin. I accept. But Marcus stepped forward. I don't, he said, causing another stir in the crowd. Your Highness chose exile to save my life, but I won't let her sacrifice her birthright for me. He turned to address the crowd directly. I came here to save a life, just one life. But I've learned something about your people in these past days. You're better than this. You're stronger than laws that would let someone die alone just to preserve tradition. His words carried through the perfect acoustics of the hall, reaching every ear. Princess Lorelei didn't break your laws, she proved they were already broken. And if saving her life makes me a criminal in your eyes, then your justice is more flawed than I thought. The crowd was silent now, hanging on every word. Even Valdres seemed taken aback by Marcus's audacity. But, Marcus continued, I've also seen your capacity for growth, for change, for love that transcends species and tradition. The princess chose to live, chose to accept help, chose to trust in something bigger than ancient fears. Maybe it's time you made the same choice. The silence in the hall of voices stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then, slowly, a single voice rose from the crowd, an elderly artisan who had worked in the palace for decades. The human speaks truth, she said, her weathered voice carrying clearly. The princess lives because he had courage we lacked. Another voice joined hers, then another. Like a wave building strength, support for Lorelei and Marcus spread through the crowd. People who had watched the drama unfold, who had seen the recordings of Marcus's selfless actions, began to speak out. She chose life over law. He saved our princess when we failed her. The mourning laws are cruel. Valdres tried to restore order, but the tide had turned. Even some council members were nodding thoughtfully, reconsidering positions they had held for centuries. The elderly counselor who had spoken earlier rose again. In light of these unusual circumstances, she said carefully, I invoke the right of popular will. Let the people speak. It was another ancient law, rarely used, but unquestionable. The crowd's voice was clear. Princess Lorelei would keep her throne, and Marcus Chen would be welcomed as her chosen consort. The mourning laws would be reformed, and never again would grief be allowed to triumph over compassion. Valdres, seeing his coup collapsing around him, made one final desperate play. He challenged Marcus to ritual combat, an archaic law that allowed disputes to be settled through trial by battle. I accept, Marcus said immediately. Though he had no idea what Catherian combat entailed, the ritual took place at dawn in the palace's central courtyard, witnessed by thousands both present and watching via broadcast across the system. The weapons were Taiste crystalline blades that hummed with harmonic frequencies, designed to test not just physical skill but spiritual harmony. Marcus had never held such a weapon, while Valdres was trained from childhood. The fight was swift and brutal. Valdres was skilled, but he fought with hatred and ambition. Marcus fought with love for Lorelei, love for justice, love for the chance to build something better. In the end, it was Marcus who stood victorious, his blade at Valdres's throat. But instead of delivering the killing blow, he stepped back, "I didn't come here to take lives," he said to the crowd. "I came to save one." The gesture of mercy sealed his acceptance by the Catherian people. Valdris was stripped of his titles and exiled, while Marcus was formally welcomed into the royal family. The wedding took place a month later, a celebration that blended human and Catherian traditions. They exchanged vows in the Garden of Eternal Light, with flowers from both worlds adorning the ceremony. Lirelai wore a gown of living crystal that shifted colors with her emotions, while Marcus wore formal dress blues with Catherian ceremonial elements. "Do you ever regret it?" Lirelai asked him on their wedding night, as they stood on the palace balcony overlooking the crystal cities below. "Giving up your old life for this?" Marcus pulled her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit in his arms. "My old life was just existing," he said. "This is living." Years passed. Under their joint rule, the Catherian Empire flourished. The mourning laws were reformed into laws of compassion, allowing help to be given to those who grieved. Relations with Earth and other human worlds strengthened into alliance and friendship. They had children, beautiful beings who bridged two species and two worlds. Their daughter, Arya, had her mother's golden eyes and her father's stubborn compassion. Their son, David, possessed his father's healing hands and his mother's gift for leadership, but perhaps most importantly, they proved that love could indeed transcend every boundary, species, culture, law, and fear. Marcus often thought back to that first night aboard the Starweaver, when he had made the choice to help a dying stranger. It had seemed like such a small decision at the time, but it had changed two worlds and created a love story that would be told among the stars for generations to come. On quiet evenings, they would sit together in the restored throne room, where the throne of sorrows had been transformed into the throne of hope. The living crystal pulsed with warm, welcoming light, a beacon of the new age they had built together. "No regrets?" Lirelai would ask, their private joke. "None," Marcus would always reply. "Not a single one." And in the gentle glow of the crystal throne, two hearts that had found each other across the vastness of space would beat as one, proof that sometimes the greatest journeys begin with a single step towards someone in need.